Hello students, here comes the next part of the plant kingdom. That's a gymnosperm and angiosperm. Let us move on to the videos. Okay. What is in the gymnosperms? Gymnosperms, they are derived from the Greek word gymnos and the sperma. The gymnos means the naked and the sperma means the seed. That means they are the naked seeded plants. That is gymnosperm. They are derived from the Greek word gymnos and the sperma. Gymnos means the naked and the spermas means the seeds. And they are the group of seed producing plants that include the conifers, cycas, ginkgo and netophytes. Okay, these are the seed producing plants that include the conifers, cycads, ginkgo and netophytes. And they are the plants in which ovules are not enclosed by the ovary wall and remain exposed. Actually, their seeds or the ovules are exposed, they are not covered before and after fertilizations. Okay, they are the plants in which ovules are not enclosed by any ovary wall and they remain exposed even before and after the fertilization. That means the seeds that developed after fertilizations are naked. They have the naked seeds. So gymnos means the naked and the sperma means the seed. From the word the gymnosperm, that means naked seeded plants. They included the conifers, cycas, ginkgo and the netophytes. How they are naked means the plants in which ovules are not enclosed or not covered by the ovary wall and that remain exposed even before and after fertilization. That is, seeds that develop after fertilization are naked. And the gymnosperms include tall as well as the medium sized trees, and also you can see the shrubs are there. There is gymnosperm that include the tall and the short trees, okay, as well as the shrubs. And the giant redwood tree, sequoia, is one of the tallest tree species in the gymnosperm. Among the gymnosperm, the tallest tree is a giant redwood tree. The name of this giant redwood tree is the sequoia. And they have the taproot system. This gymnosperm, they are actually have the big trees. So they have the taproot system, and the roots of some genera have fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza in pinus. Example, that is, they have the taproot system, and in some cases or the some species they have the fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza in the pinus. Example, that is okay, have a fungal association. In the case of that is in the pinus, there is a association with the mycorrhiza. And in some species like a cycad, the small specialized root called coloroid root are associated with the nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. That is, in the case of pinus, they have an association with the fungus mycorrhiza, and in cycas, they have an association, their root, specialized root called coloroid root, they are means associated with the nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. And they have the branched as well as the unbranched stems. Okay, they have branched as well as the unbranched stems, and the branched stems examples, that is pinus and cedrus. You can see the branched cells, that is example in the pinus and cedrus, and unbranched cells can be seen in the case of cycas. The cycas is having the unbranched stem, and the leaves may be simple or compound. Leaf of this plants or the gymnosperms are simple or can be seen as a compound leaf, and the leaves are well adapted. Their leaves are actually well adjusted to the extreme temperature, humidity and the wind. They are able to withstand or they can survive in the extreme temperature, humidity as well as the wind. In the case of conifers, they have the needle-like leaves. Their leaf is similar to the needle. The purpose of this needle-like leaf, that for the positive side or advantage is that they reduces the surface area, and they are also having the thick cuticle and also sunken stomata. Sunken stomata, this is a sunken stomata. As a result of the sunken stomata, they help to reduce the water loss, and the shape of the needle, shape of the leaf is a needle shape, and also it has a thick cuticle and sunken stomata. This needle shape that reduces surface area, and the thick cuticle and the sunken stomata helps to reduces the water loss. That is how they can adapt to high temperature, humidity and the wind. Okay. In the case of cycas, the pinnate leaves persist for years. In the case of cycas, they have the pinnate leaves that helps it persist for few years. And in the case of gymnosperm, they are heterospores. They are the heterosporous. That is, they produces haploid microspores and megaspores. They produces two kinds of spores, haploid microspores and megaspores, which are produced within the sporangia. That is why they are called heterosporous. Two types of spores are produced. And the sporangia that are born on sporophylls. Sporangia, that is, spores are produced inside the sporangia. And this sporangia is present on the sporophylls. And these sporophylls, which are spirally arranged along an axis to form a lax or a compact strobili or the cones. Okay. And the strobili that bearing the microsporophylls and the microsporangia are called as the male strobili or the male cones, or also called as microsporangiate. Okay, that is in the case of cycas, that is having the pinnate leaves that persist for years. Gymnosperm, they are the heterospores that produces the haploid microspores as well as the megaspores, and these spores are produced within the sporangia, and these sporangia actually born or develop on the sporophylls, and these sporophylls actually spirally arrange along the axis to form a lex or compact strobili or the cone, simply called cones. And this cones that bearing the microsporophylls or the microsporangia are called as the male strobili or microsporangiate. And the microspores develop into a male gametophyte. These microspores that develop into the male gametophyte or male strobili produces the microspores that develop into the male gametophyte, which are highly reduced and confined to only a limited number and are called as the pollen grains. This male microspore or the male gametospores, that is microspores that develop into male gametophyte, which are highly reduced and confined to a very limited number, and it is called as the pollen grains. And development of pollen grains is taking place inside the microsporangia. Okay, that is microspores develop inside the microsporangia, right? So that is microspores that develop into a male gametophyte. That male gametophyte, they are highly reduced and confined to a very limited number and is associated and that is called as the pollen grains. And these pollen grains are developed within the microsporangia. And the cone bearing the megasporophylls with ovules or the megasporangia are called as the female strobili or female cone or macrosporangiate. Microspore bearing cones are called as the microsporangiate or the male strobili or the male cone, and the cone that bearing the megasporophylls that are called as the female strobili, female cone or macrosporangiate. And in Pinus, male and female cones may be born on the same tree. And in Cycas, these are born on different trees. That is in the case of Pinus, the male and female cones are born on the same tree. And in the case of Cycas, the cones and the male cone and the female cones are born on the different tree. The megaspore mother cell is differentiated from one of the cell of the nucellus. The megaspore mother cell is differentiated from one of the cells of the nucellus, and the nucellus is protected by the envelope and composite structure called as the ovule. That is, from the nucellus, megaspore mother cell differentiated from one of the cell of the nucellus, right? That is, and this nucellus is protected by the envelope and composite structure is called as the ovule. The ovules are born on the megasporophylls, which may be clustered to form the female cones. The ovules are born on the megasporophylls, which may be clustered to form the female cones. The megaspore mother cells divide meiotically to form the 4 megaspores. The megaspore mother cell divide meiotically to form the 4 megaspores. Megaspore mother cell divide meiotically. I have in the first time I have told you that they are mitotically, right? So it's wrong. That is divide meiotically to form the 4 megaspores. And one of these megaspore enclosed within the megasporangium develop into a multicellular female gametophyte. That megaspore mother cells divide meiotically to form the 4 megaspores, and one of these megaspore enclosed within the megasporangium that develop into a multicellular female gametophyte that bears 2 or more female sex organ or archegonia. Female gametophyte that bears or that consists of 2 or more archegonia or 2 or more female sex organ. This multicellular female gametophyte is also retained within the megasporangium. Okay. That is, ovules are born on the megasporophylls, which may be clustered to form the female cones. The megaspore mother cells divide meiotically to form the 4 megaspore, and one of these megaspore enclosed within the megasporangium develop into a multicellular female gametophyte that bears 2 or more archegonia or the female sex organs. And this multicellular female gametophyte is also retained within the megasporangium. And the gymnosperm produces multiple archegonia which produce a female gamete. The gymnosperm produces a multiple archegonia, right, and which produces a female gamete. In gymnosperm, the male and female gametes do not have an independent free living existence that remain within the sporangia retained on the sporophytes. The sporophyte, sporangia, and within the sporangia the male and female gametophytes are there because they don't have any independent free living existence. And the pollen grains are released from the microsporangium, that is from the megasporangium, that is a gymnosperm that produces the multiple archegonia, that produces a female gamete, and the male gamete, that is the pollen grains, are released from the microsporangium. And during pollination, pollen grains are physically transferred between the plants from the pollen cone to the ovule. Okay, that is, pollination is the one of the way of the fertilization, right? And during pollination, these pollen grains are transferred physically between the plants from the pollen cone to the ovule, and they are carried by the wind or insects, or comes in contact with the opening of the ovule borne on the megasporophylls. That is, they are carried out by the wind or the insects and comes in contact with the opening of the ovules borne on the megasporophylls. And on the ovule coat is there, and onto the coat there is a small opening or microscopic gap is called as a micropyle, and through this micropyle the pollen grains enter each ovule. Okay, that is, pollen grains that are carried by the wind or insects that comes in contact with the opening of the ovules that are born on the megasporophylls. And this ovule contains an ovule coat or integuments or outer covering. They have a small microscopic gap called the micropyle, and through this micropyle the whole grain enters each ovule. And the pollen tube, that pollen tube will be there, right? That pollen tube carries the male gametes grow towards the archegonia in the ovule and discharge their content near the mouth of the archegonia. The pollen tube carrying the male gamete grow towards archegonia in the ovule because pollen grain entered, right? They comes in contact with the mouth of the micropyle region. That is, pollen tube carrying the male gamete that grow towards archegonia in the ovules and discharge their content near the mouth of this archegonia. And the pollen grains mature further inside this ovule and produces the sperm cell. Okay, that is pollen grain, mature further inside the ovule and produces the sperm cell. And the two main mode of fertilization are found in the gymnosperm. Cycas and ginkgo have flagellated motile sperms that swims directly into the egg inside the ovule. Whereas conifers and neophytes, they have non-flagellated or non-motile sperms that moved along a pollen tube to the egg. Okay, that is mainly two mode of fertilization. That is a direct mode and the moving mode. That's in this case direct mode. Why I say it's a direct mode? Because in the case of cycas and the ginkgo, they have the motile sperm because they have the flagella. Flagellated means they can move, right? So they swim directly to the egg inside the ovule. Whereas in the conifers and neophytes, they don't have the flagella, so they are non-motile. So they are that are moved along the pollen tube. They cannot move by himself and go fastly near that. Instead of that, they slowly move around the pollen tube to the egg. And after syngamy, that means joining of the sperm and the egg cells. After syngamy, the zygote develops into an embryo or the young sporophyte and the ovules into the seeds. The zygote is developed into the embryo and ovules into the seed. More than one embryo is usually initiated in each gymnosperm seeds. That is, more than one embryo is usually seen in each gymnosperm seed. And the mature seed comprises the embryo and the remains of the female gametophyte, which serves as the food supply, and also the seed coat. That is, a mature seed contains the seed coat. Inside the seed coat there is an embryo as well as the remains of the female gametophyte, that is acting or serving as a food supply. And these seeds are naked, they are not covered. Finus, ginkgo, neophytes. Next is the angiosperms. Angiosperms, they are the flowering plants. Angiosperms are called as the flowering plants, and they are the most largest and the diverse group among the kingdom Plantae. And they are dominant form of plant life in the most terrestrial ecosystem. And they are the most of the crops and ornamental plants, all are angiosperms. And angiosperms, they originated 2500 million years ago, and on the Earth's planet 80% of are the angiosperms. That is, angiosperms are the flowering plants, the largest and the diverse group of the among the kingdom Plantae. They are the dominant form of the plant on the terrestrial ecosystem, and most crops and the ornamental plants are the angiosperms. Arrived before 2000, about 2000, not 2000, 250 million years ago, and it comprises 80% of the Earth's planet's life. Angiosperms are vascular plants with stem, root and leaves. Angiosperms are the vascular plants with the root, stems and leaves. The seed of the angiosperms are found in a flower. Okay, that is, angiosperms are the vascular plants with a stem, root and leaves, and seeds of the angiosperms that are usually found in the flower. And the seed develop inside the plant. The seed develop inside the plant organ and forms the fruit. Hence, they are known as flowering plant. That is, angiosperms are the vascular plants with the stem, root and leaves. The seed of the angiosperms are found in the flower. The seed develop inside the plant organ and forms a fruit, and hence they are known as a flowering plant. Angiosperms are most advanced in the beneficial group of plants. They are the most advanced in the beneficial group of plants. And they provide us with the food, fodder, fuel, medicines and several other commercially important products. The use of plants, they are used as provide us with the food, they are used as the fuel, they are the fodder, they are used as medicine, and several other commercially important products are also made using the angiosperms, this kind of plants. And they are also a major source of food for the humans and animals. Okay. And they can grow in a various habitat as the trees, herbs, shrubs and the bushes. And Wolffia is the smallest flowering plant, and Eucalyptus is the largest flowering plant, and the length of Eucalyptus, that's the largest flowering plant, is over 100 meters tall. Okay, so they can grow in the various habitats as trees, herbs, shrubs and the bushes. Wolffia, that's the smallest flowering plant, and Eucalyptus is the largest flowering plant. And the characteristic of angiosperms, all plants have flowers at the some stage of their life. Okay, these angiosperms, they have the flowers at some stage of their life, and the flowers are the reproductive organ for the plant, providing them with the means of exchanging genetic information. But the flowers, they are the reproductive organs of this plant, and they help exchanging the genetic information. The sporophyte is differentiated into stem, root and the leaves. The sporophyte, they are differentiated into stem, roots and leaves. Sporophytes are diploid, and the vascular system, they have the true vascular system, that is a xylem and phloem will present, and the xylem that contains the true vessels and companion cells also present in the phloem. And all angiosperms are comprised of or composed of stamens, which are reproductive structures of the flower. That is flower, the reproductive structure of the flower is a stamens. Stamens, the microsporophyll and the carpel megasporophyll are organized in a structure called the flower. Okay, that is the reproductive structure of the flower is a stamen. Stamen and the carpels are organized in a structure called the flower. They are also the reproductive organ, and each microsporophyll has 4 microsporangia. Each microsporophyll has a 4 microsporangia. Ovules are enclosed in the ovary at the base of the megasporophylls. Okay, that is megasporophyll ovules are present at the, that's the carpel. At the base of the carpel there is an ovary. In that ovary, ovules are present. Angiosperms are heterosporous, that means they produces two kinds of spores, megaspores and the microspores of the pollen grains. That is, angiosperms, they are comprised of the stamens and the carpels, which are the reproductive structures of the flowers, and they are organized into a structure that is called flowers, and each has a microsporophyll and the megasporophyll. And the microsporophyll that has the 4 microsporangia, and the megasporophyll that has the ovary at the base that encloses the ovules. And angiosperms are called as heterospores, that produces the two kinds of spores, that is megaspores and the microspores. Microspores are called as the pollen grains. The stamen produces the pollen grains, that is the microspores, that carry the hereditary informations. Carpel enclosing the seed that turns into a fruit, and protection of the endosperm is one of the greatest advantages of the angiosperm. As one of the greatest advantages, or they produce angiosperm that produces the endosperm. That is, stamens or carpels are there. They are the reproductive structure of the flowering plants or these flowers, and the stamen that produces the pollen grains or the microsporophyll, and the megasporophylls are produced by the carpels, and the carpels that contains the ovules that are enclosed in the ovary that is at the base of this carpel, and the stamen that produces pollen grains that carry the hereditary informations, and the carpel enclosing the developing seed that may turn into a fruit. And the main important advantage, or one of the advantage of these angiosperms, that they produce the endosperms. And endosperms are produced after the fertilization, and they are acting or used as a source of food for the developing seed as well as a seedling. That is, endosperms are one of the advantage of this angiosperm is they are producing the endosperms. These endosperms are formed after the fertilization, and this endosperm is a source of food for the developing seed as well as a seedling. And a single functional megaspore is permanently retained within the nucellus. There will be a nucellus. Within the nucellus there is a megaspore, single functional megaspore is present. The reproduction takes place by the pollination, during which pollen grains transfer from anther to stigma. Reproduction takes place by pollination, during this pollination, pollen grains transfer from anther to stigma. Okay. And they are responsible for the transfer of genetic information from one flower to another. This pollination is the one of the method of or mode of reproduction, and during pollination, pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma, and this way the genetic informations are transferred from one plant to another or one flower to another. And the pollen grains are much smaller than the gametophytes or the reproductive cells present in the non-flowering plants. Coming to the angiosperms, their pollen grains are very smaller, the size is very smaller than the non-flowering plants. And the flower undergo double as well as a triple fusion, which lead to the formation of diploid zygote and triploid endosperms. That is, in the case of double fertilization, flowers undergo double fertilization. The double fertilization means that is one embryo, not the one sperm plus one egg cell, and form the diploid zygote. And the triple fusion, one sperm cell with two endosperm cells. Okay, embryo sac cells is present and they comes in contact and forms the triploid endosperms. Angiosperms can survive in a variety of habitat, including marine habitat. Okay, and the process of fertilization is very quicker in case of angiosperms, and the seeds are also produced very quickly due to the smaller female reproductive parts. Root system is very complex. It consists of xylem, phloem, cortex, epidermis, etc. And angiosperms are mainly classified. Coming to the classification, angiosperms are mainly classified into two classes, dicotyledons and monocotyledons, and we can go through that also. The monocotyledons, the seeds have a single cotyledon. The seeds have a single cotyledon, that is mono means single cotyledons. And their leaf is actually simple, long, narrow leaf, and the veins or the arrangements of veins are in the parallel arrangement. So, they have parallel venation. And this group contain adventitious root. Adventitious root means root that is originated other than the radicle is called as the adventitious root. And the floral parts are multiples of 3, 6, 9 like that. Floral petals will be there. And the vascular bundles are scattered and large in number. The example, banana, sugarcane, lilies, etc. That is monocotyledon, they have the single cotyledon, simple long narrow leaf having the parallel venation, have adventitious root, and the floral part is actually the multiples of 3. Vascular bundles are scattered and is large in number. Example, banana, sugarcane, lily, paddy, etc. Next is the dicotyledons. The seed of these plants have 2 cotyledons and they contain taproot instead of the adventitious root. Monocot, adventitious root, here it is taproot. And the leaves are broad and reticular venation, that is reticular means network of veins. Veins are arranged on the leaf is like a network, that is called reticular venations. Leaves are broad. In the case of monocotyledons, leaves are narrow and parallel venation. Here in the case of dicotyledons, leaves are broad and reticular venation. The flowers are tetramerous or pentamerous. Vascular bundles are organized in rings. Tetramerous means 4, pentamerous means 5. Flowers are actually 4 petals or 5 petals. Example, grapes, sunflower, tomatoes. That is monocot and dicot. Monocot, they have the single cotyledon. Mono means single. Dicotyledon, di means 2 cotyledons. They have the adventitious root. Here they contain the taproot. Dicot has a taproot. Monocot has a narrow leaf and the parallel venation. Dicot has a broad and the reticular venation. And the flowers, multiples, floral petals, floral parts are the multiples of 3. Here the flowers of multiples of, not the multiples, tetramerous or pentamers. Vascular bundles are scattered and large in number in the case of monocot. In the case of dicot, vascular bundles are organized in the rings. Banana, sugarcane, wheat, etc. Here in the dicot, grapes, sunflower, tomatoes, etc. So, these are about the angiosperms and gymnosperms. Thank you.